So here we are back again, not Friday night, but Thursday night, talking about arguably, in a lot of people's minds, the worst season of the regular run of the X Files. Uh,
The
so,
right
so
of the first nine, this sucked balls. This was ass.
I have a lot to say about this, and somebody said it better than I ever could in the comments before we even started the show. So if you go look, the very first comment by Ali P. the Goddess says, I think what's the best summation of this season to me? Underrated and bad at the same time. Only the X Files is capable of doing this.
I I can't even say underrated, other than maybe I can't even say that, man. This was tough to sit through. This was I just know it gets worse, and that's the sad thing. But this was tough.
I
I
just
mean,
want to.
it makes me appreciate season 8 more. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, me too. I just want to take a moment and say, and I was telling you this before we started the show, Rambo. I hadn't watched this season since it aired on television. And I know this because like I had forgotten a couple of things, like key things that had happened. And then I remembered them when they happened, going back and watching it. And one of the silliest damn scenes in the history of this show happens in this season. And it's fucking Native American cigarette smoking man, skeleton getting blown out of his body, like almost like the fucking Mortal Kombat, like X-rays or something.
I thought you were going to say Burt Reynolds dancing.
That I thought that episode might have been one of the best episodes, honestly. But like the end of, I was watching that and I was like, oh my god, I completely forgot that this scene existed, and how horrible is this whole fucking tragedy, abomination to be the end of the regular run of this show. And just watch his, and then I was like, flash forward to season 10. I was telling you, so his damn, I'm skipping ahead here a lot, but like this just fucking killed me. So it shows him, it shows the cigarette smoking man's entire like skeleton get blown out of his body. Fast forward to season 10, he's laying in like the ICU with just some bandages and shit on.
He's Dark Man.
Oh yeah.
They pulled a Dr. Loomis. They pulled Dr. Loomis. But this was like, you here though, you saw in slow motion detail every flesh escape, every bone be erupted. Just, that's all you have to do, because you just brain damage. Brain. How else do you explain it?
You can't.
So yeah, that's skipping like way far ahead though. Yeah. So this for some reason, this season is like my least memorable. Like I can't remember a lot of the episodes from this season. So until I went back and watched them, and some of it was just borderline like really brutal to watch. And some of it, like she said, is very underrated. So I don't know. We'll talk about it in detail, of course. But like, I don't, Mark, what's your opinions of season 9?
I can't defend it. You guys aren't wrong. It is probably the worst season of the original run. It's a chore to get through, honestly, even for me. So if that's coming from me, that's saying a lot. Like, it's some of the episodes are decent. Not one of them, even the mythology stuff, have the feeling of the original 8-season run. It's so bland, and I don't know how they thought that they would get a season 10 out of this. By this point, even Carter said that once they started the first episode, they had already lost several like viewers, like in the millions. Like, so if you look at season 8, I'm pretty sure ratings wise, that one was still pulling in double digit numbers in terms of ratings. So like, go to the first episode. I think the first episode of season 9 is 10 million viewers, but it quickly, I mean, it was barely 10 million. It's like 10 million on the dot. Episode 2, which is a 2-part mythology episode. So that's, you should really have the fans in for that. That goes down to a single digit in the millions. That's bad. He said he didn't even want to try to get the fans back because he thought that what they were going to do this season was worthy of the fans watching. So he wasn't going to fight to get them back. They should just come and watch. But I'm like, you're delusional. You created something great. I'll give him that. But where you ended up, this was not a good closure point. You guys already mentioned the final episode, which I won't get too much into, but man, it's tough. We'll get into it though.
Yeah, it's a real kick in the balls for anybody that actually like was following that show from the beginning. It is that the second part of the last episode, which is like a 2-parter, is one of the dumbest, most poorly written things, like to try to get even any, like I'm sitting there and I'm watching that courtroom scene at the end and I'm just like, this dialogue, you could just tell they're trying to like cram as many like of these speeches into this because they had no idea what else to do. And it's so
Carter said he thought that was the most logical thing to do, and that's not what it should have been. He said it always should have been a courtroom drama, like in the. I'm like, are you really a courtroom like procedural type drama?
Yeah, like fucking Law and Order all of a sudden comes out. And
yeah, like
everybody's giving these long-winded speeches about like the truth. They probably say the truth 100 times in that scene.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm just like, this is just redundant and absolutely unnecessary. But anyway, like I could go on. We could do a whole show about that last fucking like 2-part episode about how horrible that is, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
The truth is this is ass and it stinks. And it's one of those things that unless Agent Dog was involved, and even some of that, he did the best he could. The rest of this was just boring or slow or lazy or just uninspired. And you mentioned the ratings were poor for the begin with. Guarantees because everybody in the ether and the internet and whatever knew that David Duchovny was gone from the get-go. And then the audience is like, I don't care.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then if people who did see it and he saw how crappy it is for a lot of it, then they're like, I don't care. And so it goes, it dwindles. And yeah.
I'll tell you who didn't care the most, though, was fucking David Duchovny. Did you notice, like, in his scenes and that, how much he's just, like, kind of, like, not there? Like, he is totally sleepwalking through that. Any scene he's in that last season. I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is awful. Yeah. Like, he's not even trying.
Except maybe the scenes where he's making out with Gillian Anderson. But other than that, like, yeah.
Okay, before we get started, though, let's get a head count of who's in here real quick. Raised on Fiction, man, it's good to see you in here. Jackson Jack, as always, good to see you. Crash, good to have you in here. Mikey B, good to see you. Preminator's in here, and so is PA2FLA. Pat to Flow. PA to Florida, maybe? Pennsylvania to Florida, who knows? Sting of the Scorpion, 78. Mayor says that my mic is too loud. Rambo, you mentioned that earlier, so I turned it down some, so hopefully that fixes the issue. If it is too loud, then somebody on here on the chat let me know, and I will try to fix it. Hey, Carlos, man, what's up, Holmes?
What's going on?
That's awful. Rob Romano, there is no X-Files without David Duchovny. Well, there was, and it sucked.
Yeah.
Although the ones with him later wasn't was worse.
No. Although he did seem a little bit more enthusiastic to me than he did, like in this season for some reason, in the later seasons.
True.
It didn't save any of that, really, though. So biggest problem, you already kind of mentioned this about this season, was two things. Number one being Duchovny's completely out of it, basically until the end. Number two being Gillian Anderson shows up, but she only shows up for usually about like 5 to 10 minutes to be like, hey guys, what's going on? You call me in to do an autopsy or some shit. Like that's basically like the majority of time, unless it's like a standalone episode that's just her. Then she just kind of like shows up for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, and
that was pretty much by design. I mean, they were trying to get the fans used to Doggett and Reyes at that point. She was not coming back after this season. It was the end of her contract. They were trying to work her in as much as they could, and they knew that Duchovny was eventually going to do his last episode thing. But other than that, that was going to be the goodbye for both of those characters. And what a awful way to end it, by like having them go on the run. Like, how are you? Man. What's the point of that? It's just,
even the way it begins, I know Duchovny didn't want to do anymore, and I can see why. But you write Mulder to be okay after being abducted, and he comes back. Then he just goes into hiding and abandons what he thinks is his kid and the woman he loves.
Lazy writing.
I'm like, what a wonderful guy. What a piece of shit. Just, hey, you're pregnant? Yeah, boy. It's supposed to be our boy. Tough. See ya, I'm out. Tough titty. I ain't paying no alimony. Yon.
It's too dangerous to pay. That's what they keep saying. It's too dangerous for him.
One of the dumbest things about this whole season is just the idea of exactly what you said, where he's like in hiding or on the run or whatever, like, and he can't come back. And it's like, okay, well then, like, why didn't they just fucking kill him at any other point in time? Like, why does he need to be in hiding now all of a sudden?
Yeah.
I mean, if they really wanted to go forward and I think it was going to end regardless. Just don't have Gillian Anderson, have them be off somewhere, off screen. They're retired, whatever. She's on maternity leave. He's fired. Maybe they're on the phone, but you don't see anything. Maybe once in a while, Gillian Anderson will do a phone call or something. And just go for broke and see if these two will make it. I don't think it would based on these stories, but just go for that. Here, it just create. I mean, we'll get to that. Like, Scully is just a gullible idiot in so many of these episodes. Like, I mean, we'll get to, but the episode where, oh yeah, I believe you, and saying that, Mulder's doing this, and yeah, I don't know you, Mr. Taro Quinn, and you could kill me and shoot me in the face, but I'll just believe you. Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong could go. She seemed like a dumb some bitch. And I'm like, this is even too gullible for this character. Come on.
Yeah, he did Evolution.
Yeah,
he did Evolution in between, actually, between season 8 and season 9. But still,
one of the worst parts too about this season as a whole was just how everybody flip-flops back and forth all the time about, like, there's no continuity in their characters. Like, Scully's half the time like a believer, she's half the time like a skeptic. Reyes is half the time a fucking believer, half the time like a skeptic. It's like everybody's trying to prove and disprove shit at different times in the season, like, which makes there's no like character development between anything going on here. But that being said, in my opinion, though, there are some really good like standalone episodes in this season that do feature like Reyes and Doggett. But Reyes fucking blows. Like, I don't know how many times I can say this, but if you have any like doubts that she is just one of the worst characters, the least thought out characters ever, that just gets pushed on you during this season, like, and you don't want it. It's like, no, just she's just very difficult to watch in this season.
So for you
Yeah,
guys,
I felt that in this season especially. It was nothing against the actress, but the way she was written, she was just uninteresting, being psychic, all this other stuff they pull out of their butt just was not interesting to me. But what were you going to say?
oh, I was just going to say, writing aside, say they did a season 10, an alternate version of season 10, where they continued with Doggett and Reyes. Would either of you guys have been okay with that? Would it have been tolerable? Would you have preferred that opposed to what we did get with season 10 eventually? Or
Not with Reyes. I think you really need to change it up, and you really, I don't know if a different actress, different character, different ways written. It's just.
Is it me too?
Maybe it's one of those. Yeah, go ahead.
Did it seem like the whole like Reyes and Doggett getting together thing, which really comes about around like the was Audrey Plaza
Forced. Very forced
episode? What is the name of that episode?
Audrey Polly.
Aubrey Plaza.
Audrey Plaza.
But did that not seem kind of like they just forced that in there, either to make it more like
100%?
Yes, but that was done by design. So that's part of the reason why they created the Brad Fulmer character played by Carrie Elwes in this season. It's supposed to be Doggett and Fulmer sort of having the same affection for the same woman, and it's kind of like a love triangle sort of, but it's never really played up the way that like you would think it would be. I don't think it was necessarily a good idea. I don't think you needed that, but they wanted to have her have some sort of a love interest. They do point out the fact that, like I did say last season, Doggett he wants Scully. He wants to be with her, and James Remar says that in the 3rd episode, which we'll get to that. I mean, he says like, you can't have her. She feels sorry for you, but that's it. You can't compete with Mulder. You'll never be with her, that kind of thing. So we'll get to that though. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is kind of forced, and it's not really all that interesting.
Maybe they should have done Robert Patrick and Carrie Elwes get together. And there's the love story.
Listen, I don't know if I've ever really told you
that's
this,
scarier than Saw.
I really hate Carrie Elwes too. Like, just as an actor, he's like as interesting as fucking milk. He's just.
I don't mind him.
What does he do?
I like him, Princess Bride.
I was going to say Princess Bride. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's almost like a different person. Like, everything he does post that is just the most boring shit ever. Like the Saw stuff and pretty much anything. Even the shit, like, wasn't he in Liar Liar or something with Jim Carrey?
He was,
yeah. It's just, he always plays the same kind of character, and it's always really annoying to me. But anyway, so he has the best character arc though of anybody in this season. Like, he goes from being like just kind of like the milk toast, deputy director, whatever guy that he is, to like being with the mob, to shooting somebody in the fucking head. I'm like, wow, like this took like
right.
So I was actually really kind of impressed with his character arc as opposed to anybody else in this show.
They said they wanted him to be the opposite of Doggett and the opposite of Mulder completely. Him to be like this slick, like suave, careerist FBI agent that does everything by the book. But you come to find out that's not exactly the case. So that is an interesting dimension that you mentioned. That was kind of cool seeing all his character arc in the end.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably the most interesting part about the whole season, really, in terms of the characters. But anyway.
So interesting they brought him back. Oh, wait. He just disappeared in the revivals. They would dog it, which I know Robert Patrick's doing another show, but they didn't even mention his name. Like, he went to the Twilight Zone. He went to it's like that movie, The Forgotten. The aliens just zapped him into thin air, just like Julianne Moore. He just disappeared to the cloud of crowds and never seen again.
So, according to Carter, if you believe him, he says that was supposed to be Doggett's character was supposed to be in 10 and 11. Like you mentioned, he was on another show. So scheduling wise, they could make that happen. Oddly enough, the show that he was on ended up getting canceled like right around the time they were doing season 11. So he says it would have been a completely different, like it would have gone way differently if Doggett was involved. There was a plan to bring him back because that show that he was on did end. He was supposed to come back for season 11, but Gillian Anderson pulls out, and that's why Fox ultimately canceled season 12. So there we go.
But just heard how those are. I think it's fine he wasn't in there. It would have been, he'd be a bad guy too, and he'd get shot in the head and run over by the car.
He gets run over in this season too.
Fucking hell, man.
I remember this line too. Yep.
CK, what he said, goddamn. I don't know if you can post it, but
I can't even put that on there, but he's
Oh god.
Yeah.
All right, so we can
this
get started
story
though.
Sucks.
Yeah,
this mythology fucking sucks.
We're gonna get started on that right now with the fact that this to me is probably the worst mythology opening of any of these seasons. And I don't give a shit about Lucy Lawless. I never did. I never watched Xena or any of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really super annoying in this episode. And
she got on the show because she came up to Carter and said she was a huge fan. And he's like, oh, really? Xena like had just ended, so she was free, and then he put her in the show. And then she fucking gets pregnant, and she has like a history of miscarriages, so she didn't want to risk it. So she just left the show after 2 episodes.
Is that what happened?
What
that makes sense.
That's what happened.
So she shows up, and she's basically like, there's a whole subplot about the EPA and how they're putting shit in the water and all this stuff. And she shows up long enough basically to drown this EPA guy, and come to find out she's like a super soldier that can't be killed, and yada, yada, yada. And all this and that. And
did it just seem like they just pulled this out of their butt? Like out of the blue, the super soldiers.
There was something about it that was very like, yeah, I don't even know if I would say forced, but it was very uninteresting in context with the other like mythology
and redundant.
Yes, and just very kind of like you'd seen all that before, and they just kind of like played it off with other characters for some reason. So
yeah, the super soldiers are pretty much like the bounty hunters. I mean, they don't shapeshift, but they're like powerful, and they take people's heads off.
Yeah, I mean they're alien replacements, but they keep pushing the super soldier narrative this entire season, and we know that's not the case, but they're trying to get the characters, or at least our heroes, to like believe that. And this season,
there's another awful part of this episode too, which is that Scully's baby William starts doing this fucking like telekinetic shit where it can move like it's mobile and like all this other stuff with his mind.
Fucking X-Men baby.
Yeah, that comes up again towards the end of like and I'm just oh god, I can't wait to get to that end episode as
maybe
well.
it's a prequel to X-Men.
It was
X-Men.
Yeah.
They make that joke in season 11. Like when he's all grown up, he keeps saying like, "Oh, like X-Men, right?" So, I mean, it's owned by the same studio.
Shit.
So there's not a whole hell of a lot else that happens in that. I mean, there's a lot that happens, but it's basically just the same type of shit.
Like, no, I thought it was funny. Like the one thing they say is Kirsch told Mulder to leave. I was supposed to buy that guy who is this asshole. He like, I wrote Kirsch, you need to leave to protect yourself, and I'm like, why would Mulder even listen to Kirsch? This guy who's been like the devil incarnate almost in the past season. I don't listen to him, and I didn't leave my baby, so I don't have to pay no child support. Fuck that. I ain't paying no child support on this. It just I don't get it. Desperate measures. Bad stories.
Yeah, I think like there's a couple of cool things like with the stunt with the car going off, them doing that practically was nice. I think Lucy Lawless does like all her underwater stuff. That's actually her underwater. They shoot all that like in some giant tank. There's like a revelation at the end where you find out all this stuff on the naval ship is supposed to be some sort of documented evidence that they have been doing experiments on people. It's not necessarily abductions. Same old story. I mean, yeah, I think Noel Rohr is killed again, apparently by Lucy Lawless at the end. Of course, he's not dead. He comes back. Yeah, not a whole lot really about these two episodes that I could say are actually good. I mean, I don't think really any of the mythology stuff is good.
How many times does Noel Rohr get fucking killed in this episode, by the way? Just if we could just count them up.
I mean, throughout the season 8 and 9, he's killed like 50 times, it seems like, but he always comes back.
It kills me. And then at the very end, he turns into the fucking T-1000 and gets sucked into the rocks or whatever, which, by the way, is one of the dumbest ways for anything to die. Like some sort of magnetite or something.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that stuff either. They I think they were like, well, we gotta, put forward this weakness. We gotta do something. It was just so flat. Like the only thing that I thought was halfway interesting, and we'll get to these episodes at some point, are the episodes in the very like middle of the season. I think it's Provenance and Providence. Although I'm sure people are probably tired of the cult thing, but again, that's the only halfway decent thing that I liked mythology wise in the season was the cult with the character Josepho. But again, we'll get there.
And by the way, DR, you ain't missing much. Stay the fuck away from this season. Like, run for the hills. You ain't missing much.
Yeah, Rambo's right. You're not. I mean, it might be worth a revisit if you're watching it all the way through just to get the continuity of it all. But like, other than that, it's kind of or it is dull.
And Alfa Romero, I'm eating dried cranberries. These are good. Try them, man. They're good for you. Good for your dick. They're good for you.
Are they? Shit.
I wish. I don't know, but they taste good.
So
but there's another.
Sure I don't
punch something in the face to keep my hands busy because I talk more about this season, and as we get to more, I just want to and just they fucked. When do you think they should have stopped? Seriously, what season? 8 or before?
Oh, say that again.
When do you think they should have stopped? Season 8 or before? Like they should have stopped.
Season 8 was the best ending. I mean, it felt like a logical closure point for everybody involved. Again, that final shot is one of the best ones in the entire series, given where the story was at that point. I think you stop right there. They resolved everything pretty much. I mean, you could have stopped right there and it would have been fine. But yeah, I think even Frank Spotnitz says that the mythology up until this point, like, they were going to end all the alien stuff. They were going to do a new mythology overall, but of course that didn't come to fruition. But yeah, it is what it is. The season is just so dull.
Speaking of dull shit that happens in this season, though, there's a whole other storyline that doesn't go anywhere in this first couple episodes where Doggett is investigating the Deputy Kirsch, and there's that whole thing where he's like, and that just kind of ends. Like nothing really happens with that. Like he's trying to investigate from, I guess it's from the past season, like what his role was in trying to like shut down the X-Files and all that. That never really goes anywhere. Although he has a, whereas I said earlier that Carrie always has an interesting arc. Kirsch's arc kind of is fucking shitty because like he goes the entire show, the entire show,
I know what you're
all
going
the
to
way
say.
up to the last 5 minutes, and he's like, "Let's go, bitches."
He's got a
Get in the
face
car.
turn.
Like, what?
Yep.
Yeah. So whatever, but yeah.
What? It's whatever. Mark, what's your true feelings on Kirsch? What's your true feelings? I think you think of Kirsch like he does Reyes.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. He plays that character well. The whole like asshole character, he does it really well. He's very believable in the role, but his like little face turn in the last episode made no sense, especially when in that last episode he's a part of like the trial that's like, I'm gonna get this conviction. Although you kind of get the idea that his hand is somewhat forced in doing that, because he does talk to like this general, because it's a military court, and he's like, I want a guilty verdict, and it's up to you to get it, Kirsch. And he's like, you know, there's powers within the government now that like you'd be foolish to go against them. So his hand's somewhat forced, but he's never been for the X-Files anyway, so it's like, whatever.
So I'm guessing by the last episode, the thing that turns him around is Mulder's fucking speech, where he's just sitting there. The whole rest of the time he's been like, just like, you know, y'all, you're dead. We're going to hang you or whatever. And then Mulder gives this half-ass speech where he's like, are you trying to cover up the truth? Or are you trying to bury like the man or the truth or something bullshit? And then he's sitting there all teary-eyed, and then I guess he has the face turn like right there, and he's like, all right, I'm going to help all these fuckers escape all this, even though I've been like doing everything I can for the entire season to make sure that doesn't happen.
That'd be hilarious at the end. He just goes, enough of that shit, you dead. That's just that's the dialogue. Enough of this shit, you dead. And just that stuff, you know.
I halfway expected him just to be like, they get them all in the car and then blow it up or some shit. That would have been awesome. Like, just, yeah. But no, he just completely like pusses out, has a face turn, and then that's basically the end of it. He really doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, he kind of helps them out, like, but I'm pretty sure they would have got out anyway.
Exactly.
But what they should have done is Mulder's going to be electrocuted, and then Skinner switches with him. But then when he gets electrocuted, he can't be, because all along he's been Horace Pinter the whole time. The whole season he's been Horace Pinter. His back has been his plan all along to be in control, and now it's no more Mr. Nice Guy. We got Shocker 2, Electric Boogaloo, biting everyone's fingers, finger looking good, and then it's just him, destroys the whole FBI, shots Kirsch.
Right.
Soundtrack plays.
Megadeth comes on.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be better than the ending we got, sadly. It wouldn't make no sense, but neither did this. At least it'd be
it would make more sense, maybe. All right, so enough of that shit. Episode 3 is a standalone episode called Demonicus. I didn't watch this one because there's just too much of the shit going on. I was trying to watch some of the other episodes, so you guys will have to give your all's take on this one because I have no earthly idea.
Pretty much, James Remar stars in it. And for those who don't know, James Remar, he was in 48 Hours as the bad guy. He was in The Warriors. He was going to be Hicks in Aliens, but he was in a drug phase, and they found out he got fired. That's one of the reasons why Walter never worked with him again, because Walter Hill produced that film. And so last minute they got Michael Biehn to be Hicks. He plays a guy in an asylum, and there's this people being killed. Like a guy is with his old lady, and he thinks he sees something, but he shoots, and it's this lady with duct tape on her mouth. And so it was boring. It was, at one point, you have these two guys in these masks that look like straight out of Star Trek. They look like Star Trek masks, like alien masks. And they're like ready to shoot each other. There's a scene where James Remar's talking with Doggett, and you find like James Remar's evil or the devil or whatever the hell it is.
He's supposed to be the devil, maybe.
There's a scene where he like pukes for like 3 minutes straight, as ridiculous. He's like fire hose of puke.
They talked about that. That was actually not supposed to be shown that way. It was edited very poorly. And they mentioned this, that it was supposed to be like maybe like 5 to 10 seconds. But the way it goes on, like the way it's edited, it goes on way too long. So yeah, I know what you mean.
And Agent Rains didn't do squat in it. And a way they lost trust of her because Robert Patrick was right all along because he's like, stick with this guy, stick with this guy, stick with James Remar. And Monica Reyes, she's so gun-ho. She's like a very annoying version of Mulder. She's like very like, I wouldn't say cocky, but just so damn sure of her point and her psychic ability or whatever that work only a fraction of the time that it becomes annoying to watch and just Stoley does nothing. She like kills one of the bad guys pretty much off screen. And then James Remar gets away and he wins and blah, blah, blah. And like for the standalone, and we are big fans of, I thought it was pretty lame. It felt like a crappy Millennium episode because it should be a serial killer and demons.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
It's like one of the lesser lame ones.
Yeah.
Unlike the first season of that, which is a great one. But yeah, your thoughts, Mark.
I don't disagree like with you at all. It really, I mean, for this to be the first Monster of the Week episode of this new season, which, you know, you have Doggett and Reyes taking the reins, it was disappointing. I mean, there's a lot of little tidbits in there. Like I do like some of the lighting with James Remar in certain scenes where like he's back in the shadows and like his eyes look completely black because of the shadows. The lighting and shadow usage is kind of cool. I know the hospital name is like Chessman something, and that was actually named after a serial killer. There's the whole like chess pattern on the floor of the hospital, which is supposed to signify something. Like they put a whole lot of like extemporaneous information in there that you probably would just miss if you weren't really paying attention. But I'm just kind of a obsessive nut that way, so I noticed. But like I can't disagree though. Like it really is like a disappointing start to the Monster of the Week stuff, which is kind of all this season really has going for it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just not. I mean, other than like the revelation of which I mentioned earlier, James Remar telling Doggett like, "You want Scully, but you can't have her. I know you have these feelings for her. She feels sorry for you. So does Reyes." Like, and I think later in the season, in an episode, you meet Doggett's wife for the first time, and she says that they could have something together, Reyes and Doggett, but he won't let her in. And then I remember Robert Patrick saying something about like he wanted to explore their relationship more in season 10. Like if they had actually done it, he was interested in them like evolving their romantic relationship, which I can't really see why. But
me either.
Yeah.
Stupid.
He just wants to stick his tongue in her butt. I can't blame him.
Okay. That's why she became a villain. She didn't get the tongue in the butt.
She needed the tongue in the butt. That's what prevents villains.
I thought she got it from Smoking Man. Like, didn't he? Yeah. He's too old or what?
She got the cigarette up the butt.
Native American cigarette smoking man.
That was so ridiculous.
I'm telling you, man, just that image when they walk in that cave and he's sitting there like all like a fucking crisscross applesauce with that trach ring and the damn long hair. I just wanted to kill myself right there. That was so awful. Okay.
I was ready for him to get up and go thinner.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. Now that you mention it,
yeah.
I never take it off. It die in my mouth. Fucking guy's accent, man. I'm like, what accent is this?
Oh god.
Anyway, that's a deep cut for all you thinner fans out there. Episode 4 is 4D, which is actually one of my favorite episodes from like this season. It's just it's a basic one about a guy who can kind of jump in between like planes of existence or whatever. and not be
Parallel
seen.
dimensions.
Parallel dimensions, yeah. And what ends up happening is he shoots Doggett. Doggett's chasing after him for this whole investigation they got going on. To make a long story short, he ends up shooting Doggett, and then since nobody really knows he's there, they think that it's Reyes, and Reyes gets charged with like murder and all this and that. So I just liked the idea of it and thought the actor that played the guy was really, really good too. I'm not even sure who the actor is, but it was actually one of the more fleshed out episodes that I saw in this season.
Yeah, definitely. Were you going to say something, Rambo?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this was like their play on Psycho. I mean, like if you remember, he has like the mother who's always on him about make me this, do that for me.
Yeah.
But with the X-Files twist of the parallel dimensions, I think it starts with him slitting Reyes' throat, which I'm sure you guys probably enjoyed. So she's dead. And then Doggett chases after her, like you mentioned, or chases after him, and he gets shot in like the neck, I think, because he has he can't talk, and then he has like a spinal issue throughout the episode. So Reyes, of course, is trying to put it all together, but you're in two parallel dimensions. You start out in one, and then you end up in another. Somehow the injured Doggett goes into the other dimension. So while you're in there, like she figures it out, and they basically hunt him down and take care of business eventually. But I do like the idea. It's very, very X-Files.
They do this basically twice in this season too, by the way. The idea of having like these different parallel universes where people kind of exist. And like you have to one thing has to happen on one for something to happen. So in this one, like they have to kill Doggett, right? They have to turn off the life support in order for it to like fucking work in the
other Doggett to come through.
Yeah. So and there's another one that Aubrey Plaza that we'll get to later where similar kind of situations happen. Anyway, I like this episode a lot though. I really did. So let's see. The one after this is episode 5, which is Lord of the Flies, which, oh, Jesus Christ.
Not a fan, really?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but yeah. As a standalone episode, I wasn't incredibly like thrilled with this one. As like did they get this from like Punk'd or something? Was that show popular at the time?
It's supposed to be Jackass.
Yeah,
Jackass, okay. Yeah.
Jackass.
So it's
because the first or second movie had just come out around this time. It was getting pretty popular.
The show, I think,
and the show is called Dumbass.
Right.
It's called Dumbass. Their show. Such a big change. Jackass, Dumbass. Ooh, what a big.
This has Aaron Paul in it for the Breaking Bad fans. Another Breaking Bad actor, which is like a million of them in the X-Files. I think he also has his name in the episode is Sky Commander Winky, which is the weirdest name ever. But it actually came from Vince Gilligan because that's what he was called in high school. And of course, we all know Vince Gilligan wrote and created Breaking Bad. So a little piece of trivia there.
Thoughts about this episode in general? It made me want to like shit my pants. It was really bad.
Normally, I don't really mind seeing Jane Lynch, but she was not in it very much. It was very generic. I mean, this was supposed to be a return to like the comedic Monster of the Week type thing because like there is quite a bit of comedy in it. And mostly it comes from this guy who's like a bug expert who's always hitting on Scully, but she's just like
that guy
ignoring his advances.
I wanted someone to shoot him in the head or something. Just the way he was trying to pick up Scully, his acting, his mannerisms, his unfunny, just very broad comedy. It was like, dude, just please stick your head in a cocoon and don't come out, man. Just please, just get out of the picture, please. It's like trying to think of that actor. I don't know what he reminded me of. He reminded me, whatever. He was shit. That's what he reminded me of. I can't think of the actor. But
did you notice
it's like someone saw Phenomena, and it's like, hey, that girl controlled bugs, so have a guy control bugs, and
that's basically what it is.
Really terrible.
Phenomena, it's 1,000 times better than anything in this whole.
Yeah.
With
Did you notice though, a lot of these episodes are just seem incredibly like generic and boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a common problem throughout this whole season. Is just everything is very just bland, and it wasn't really the case even in the last season. But this one is just so washed out. It's like it's got a very Lionsgate home video feel to it that like just permeates the whole season.
Why do you think that happened? Did they get different writers? Did they just not care anymore? Did they just go, well, David Duchovny's gone, so we don't care? But at the same time, there's supposed to be a new era, so you think they would try to put all their hard work into this? Does they have something to prove? Did they just run out of ideas? Like, what do you think happened?
I think it's a combination of all those things. Plus, like, I don't think that they thought it was going to end as quickly as it did. And they just like, I don't know. They just jammed everything they could, into that in the last couple of episodes of this thing. And also like just in general without Duchovny, it just doesn't it never worked though. Like even the past seasons when he was out for a period of time and Gillian Anderson was supposed to be carrying the episodes, those didn't really work either to me. But at least they seem to be a little bit more well written than these.
Yeah, the mythology is way better in season 8. I'll take all that over this. This is really bland, like incredibly bland.
Speaking of bland shit, though, episode 6 is Trust No One, which
what a waste of Terry O'Quinn.
What a waste of just an episode in general, man. Jesus God. Like, so it's all centered really around William and his fucking psychic powers. And I can't even tell you how stupid that is just as a subplot, this whole thing. And get you to understand. Plus the visual effects look awful. Like when he's moving the shit around and stuff. It's just in a crib. And he's like causing stuff to move. And at one point he causes he's got like the artifact thing and he causes it to go through the fucking crib or something like that, which just looks god awful, like the way that it's shot.
Honestly, like it was, I think it's always Matt Beck is the visual effects producer of like, he does all the stuff. Probably his best stuff was like the black oil over the eyes and a lot of like smaller effects. But when it's time to like make something bigger, like how you mentioned the artifact flying through the air, or even some of the alien ships, they don't hold up well, and I don't think they were even that good for back then, honestly.
No, and for some reason this looked even worse than a lot of the stuff that was in like season 8 or even like the earlier seasons, like season 3 or 4. But this was a real snooze fest of an episode, man. Like, God, I can't think of anything I'd least like to follow up with than to know about like all the psychic shit and finding like other parents of babies that are similar to like, it's holy God, it was bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot of confusing things. Like, number one, I like him as an actor, but why would you cast Terry O'Quinn again when he was in Millennium? You know that's in the same universe because you did an episode with Millennium, and he was in the X-Files movie. He got blown up. This is like the 5th time he's appeared as a different character.
And he was in one of the previous seasons. I think it was season 2. He was in as well.
And then, I mean, for folks who don't see it, you don't need to see it. It's just, like he said, the kid doing his X-Men shit. And then Mulder's going to be on a train, and Scully talks with Terry Quinn. And for some reason, it's so gullible. I've never seen Scully this gullible to believe in every word and go, even Dog, it's like this guy could kill you, this guy could shoot in the face, he could taste your muffins.
Why did she believe him? She believed well, I mean, she was hesitant a few times, but I mean, eventually she gives in to doing all this stuff. I mean, he's got her driving around like she's Bruce Willis in Die Hard with a Vengeance. He's like, oh, take this car, drive over here, take this change of clothes, change your clothes there. Dude, it's like all that for her to end up in a sequence where she like is almost killed, and like there's an assassin, which he's really a alien replacement, but it's I mean, so for other people, I'm sorry,
I'm not taking care of this kid anymore. I'm gonna get Mulder no matter what, and you're gonna take care of this kid yourself. I'm tired of this crap. I'm gonna throw this kid to you on the train. You better catch it. Hope you play football in school, because I'm gonna launch this kid. You better catch it. I hope you're
kick this kid to you. Hold on.
What was that guy in WWE that punted the baby?
Oh yeah, yes,
Snitsky.
He didn't do it though. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so he shows up using like a voice changer. He's giving her all these like commands, and they go back and forth for a while. She gives in, and there's like a long shot. You guys remember the long shot of like what's supposed to be Mulder running through like that rock quarry?
Yes.
I thought that was hilarious because clearly they didn't have Duchovny.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, he gets killed at the end, Terry O'Quinn, after all of his. I mean, I think there's one thing that they do give, I guess maybe it's not that big of a deal, but he mentions that he has like cameras on her the whole time in her apartment and stuff. And he says, like, I know that on one lonely night you invited Mulder into your bed.
Who says some shit like that anyway?
Exactly. Oh man. But yeah, dude, it's such a waste. I love Terry O'Quinn, but man, that was a huge waste of his time.
All right, so here's a question from Carter. He says, do you guys think Chris Carter is overrated? He seems like a guy who came up with a good idea and had great writer's room to rely on.
I said that episodes ago. That's exactly what I said. I think his writing staff was probably better than he was, honestly.
I'm convinced 100% that they were, yeah. After watching a lot of these seasons and just kind of knowing the flow and stuff, like especially like of course Vince Gilligan, but like they had a lot of like James Wong, a lot of the writers and things like that.
Glenn Morgan and Darren Morgan.
Glenn Morgan, yeah.
They're brothers, by the way, for people that don't know.
Yeah, they were all a lot better than he was at crafting a lot of these stories. All right, so we'll get off that fucking nonsense. And then I don't know how you all felt about this one. I thought this was a pretty good. This is the standalone Doggett one, the next one. Episode 7 is John Doe, where this was a pretty good idea. It's been done before, but like they did it pretty well here, which is he wakes up, doesn't know where the hell he is, and the whole episode is him basically going backwards, trying to figure out like what has happened, like how he ended up in the spot where he was at. So
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say for the chat, like the brief synopsis would be like he just said that he wakes up in a Mexican town. He doesn't know where he is, but it's because his memory has been sucked away from what Vince Gilligan called a memory vampire, and he works for the cartel. And if you get too close or you create a problem for them, then they suck your memory away without actually killing you. And they sort of rob you of everything that you are because your memories are pretty much who you are. So,
yeah, I kind of wish that cartels were that nice. Jesus Christ, dude. So you see them the shit that cartels are actually doing? Like,
right, exactly.
Memory vampire. It'd be a lot more hospitable than what they're currently doing.
Now, I was just going to say that it's ironic that aside from that little bit, this could be like an episode of 24 with Jack Bauer or something. This could be like,
yep,
that's like one of the better episodes is one that's the least X-Files, which I think is ironic. Like of the episodes, this seems, other than that little bit, like the least X-Files, because it does seem like just a regular drama action show. Yeah. I mean, the whole ending with the bus, that does seem like 24 or something. Like
Yeah, it's more like you said, like that kind of the style of the show. It's not really they don't focus an emphasis really on the supernatural or anything in this episode. Like
No.
it's more based on like adventure action kind of stuff like you were talking about.
Hmm.
But it's
Do you
done
think they
really
should have done more of that, or
they,
no?
I don't even know. Like I think that they should have had more like dog heavy kind of
Yes.
episodes because he was
Hmm.
really carrying this fucking show at this point, by the way.
Yep.
Like
Yes.
if you know Mulder wasn't in it, Scully's awful in it. She's barely in it. Reyes is Reyes, and then like you got Doggett. So he was carrying this whole show by this point. And I noticed that too. In a lot of the episodes that he wasn't in or he was like not in as much, they're really like go down
Yeah.
in quality.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, him and Skinner were
Oh.
a great pair. I like any time that the two of them work together. That's always great to see. So I would include Skinner in that as well, but he's not in it enough for my taste. Like he's such a great character, but he's always been sort of like a sideline guy. But yeah, it's a shame that that
Yeah,
it just didn't pan out.
it could just been a dogged centered show and just have Skinner be his partner, whether it's a demotion or whether it's him think he owes it to Mulder or whatever the case may be. It's
Hmm.
TV. They can always make something up. They made more weird stuff up throughout the show, so it wouldn't be the most
Hmm.
unrealistic part. That I think if that was more of the driving force and a better mythology and a lot of it's a lot of stuff that could have been fixed and you need a whole team of people like us. We could
Hmm.
go in and fix it or something. Just Jesus.
Yeah, no, I
Sucks.
agree.
But
And
I did like John Doe. I did like this episode. It's a good one.
yeah, this is a Gilligan episode. He wrote and directed this one, so it shows. I mean, it's one of the better ones. I also like the look of the episode too. It's almost like they tweaked the color saturation a bit, and it looks like it's shot like very grainy stuff like that.
yeah, it's got a once upon a time in Mexico kind of feel to it or something.
Yeah.
Season episode 8 is. I actually have a soft spot for this episode. I don't know why. It's kind of an average episode, but I liked it.
I love the
Hellbound.
effects.
Yeah, the effects are great. Hellbound
Mm.
is the episode in which, like, God, how do you really explain this? So there is a group of guys that are in like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and they are all having the same type of like visions and dreams and things like that, where they see someone walking around who's been skinned alive, and then shortly after they see this person, they themselves are skinned alive, and then end up just kind of like, of course, dying. But there's some common thread to it, which is that you find out later on that basically this is like an evil from like a long time ago that has never died and continues to show up, and the manner of death is always the same. That's the best explanation I can give for it. I think even at one point they say something like, evil evil never dies or something to that effect.
It's a reoccurring evil that's killing off people from like their past lives. So you get reincarnated and the evil comes back again to kill you again. And it turns out that Reyes is one of them. She's one of the people that has a past life. And so that's how she kind of fits into this X-File.
Yeah, sadly.
But
she just annoyed the piss out of me in this episode. She did. Just anytime she talked, she spoke, she looked, she felt something. This terror is just so uninteresting. I might as well be looking at the blank wall. I might as well be knocking on heaven's door. I'd rather be,
Jesus, Matt.
That's hardcore.
I nothing against the actress. I'm saying I don't like this character. It's just anytime she's on screen, I want to hit fast forward from her nonsense and just her want to be Miss Theo, Miss Cleo, whatever the hell she was doing. I mean, she must be one of those 1-800 numbers with Miss Cleo back in the day. I will read your signs or whatever the shit. I just
Lord of
Oh
mercy.
man,
Remember when she had the Jamaican accent? She wasn't
Yeah.
Jamaican at all. Shit.
those were great.
Oh, Miss Cleo, man. I'm here by the beach.
Call me now.
Call me now, man.
Oh man.
So you're right, though. The best part about this episode, 100%, was the effects. And it had
Yes.
fucking
I agree.
Patrick Swayze's brother in it. And I was like, when he popped up on there, I was like, I know that guy's face. And I knew it was his brother, like right when I saw him. And I've never really seen him in anything else, like to know that
Mhm.
he was even an actor, but I knew that was fucking Patrick Swayze's brother. He's
Yeah,
just got the
Don
same
Swayze.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don Swayze.
But
Yeah. The effects. So if anybody who's watching hasn't seen it, it looks like the people that are skinned they look like Julie and Hellraiser, basically.
Mhm.
It's very much a play on that. I mean, the episode's called Hellbound, so maybe there was some sort of an inspiration there. It is very dark, I'll say. There's a lot of like just people getting skinned alive and stuff in this episode.
yeah, they weren't killed, by the way. They were skinned alive.
Exactly.
It's bullshit, Olivia. The Kevin the Mister can do the work. It's bullshit.
Billy, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, but much like the previous episode with Lord of the Flies, where they use like, I don't know, 30,000 or 50,000 actual flies for a person in one scene, they had like in the slaughterhouse, I think like 200 or so like slaughtered pigs that were real. And they had a bunch of fake ones too, but there was a lot of real slaughtered pigs in that scene. So again, just more useless trivia.
Yeah, Buddy Bacon would approve. So anyway, I give that. I mean, I like that one. Okay, I give it like a 6 out of 10 if I had to rate it. It was fine. The next ones, the next two together are like more of the mythology parts.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is episode 9, Provenance, which is the religious cult episode. And then also more shit about William that I went to bed on. Fucking.
I need to ask Mark a question.
Okay.
How are William and Mulder supposed to save the world? Harsh language? How are they supposed to save the world? Like, what's the plan? How are they going to save the world? They don't give one of these, like, you know, middle fingers, curse. Like, how are they going to save the world?
So I mean, obviously Josepho is like out of his mind. He's the religious cult leader in this episode. Yeah, he has this whole prophecy about like William's like the savior, and he's gonna follow in Mulder's footsteps and save everybody from the oncoming like alien invasion, and the aliens are gonna take over the world. So that's kind of like the basic premise of these two episodes. He also finds another ship, much like the ship that's found in, I guess it's biogenesis, and then the Sixth Extinction, and that's season 7, episode 1 and 2, and last episode of season 6. So that's like a 3-part arc. So they kind of bring that back, the whole artifact thing. It has pieces of scripture on it, parts of the Quran, human genome sequences, all of them playing into this idea that God is an alien, essentially, or he might be. And Josepho believes that this spaceship is a temple that houses the physical manifestation of God. So he wants to kidnap William, not to kill him, but to protect him, of course. But he wants Mulder dead. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the second part of the episode, he says that he wants to have Scully bring him Mulder's head. Something about like him killing Mulder and saving William. Rambo, I see you down there. Is this all just nonsense? Like, is it you just don't give a shit at this point, or what?
What if
I don't know why
God was
anyone.
an alien? Just an alien like us.
It,
Too convoluted, or just too ridiculous, or both, or
both. I mean, what you said, like we were laughing, and this is supposed to be taken seriously. And like I said, like you could tell you knew before, but if there was no guarantee, there's a guarantee now. They have no way of knowing where they're going with this, how it's going to end. Like if there's nothing else to tell you, just pulling stuff out. This is it, and it got worse later. But just like I said, in all seriousness, if Mulder and why does he really want Mulder dead? Like, what was that? What would that affect anything? Because you still have Scully. Like, what does killing Mulder actually do?
well,
How is
Josepho
William?
believed that he was actually William's father. That was in his mind. That's what he believed, and if he killed him, then it would kickstart William to like save everybody. It wasn't supposed to be that they
Kickstart his
both
heart.
saved everybody. Huh? What'd you say?
Kickstart his heart.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, it did seem like they were trying to make something out of nothing with this. I won't say it's really a good idea or anything like that. But I thought it was somewhat better than the whole super soldier thing, which they ran into the ground with the first two episodes, and I think like towards the end in the truth episodes, the season finale.
But that's another thing. Like they have Super Soldier, and then they have this, and now you have these competing themes. One trying to get over the other. It's like they couldn't make up their mind, so they tried to have their cake and eat it too, and it didn't work on either one because neither one was developed that well at all. Neither one was developed to its fruition, especially halfway through when they realized this is the end.
Right.
It was so. Like I would love for. Well, I guess I do know. They just said none of this matters in the last 5 years. Don't matter, and it's retcon. That's how they figure it out. They had no end game. Was William going to take the spaceships with his mental telepathy and crash down the spaceships? Was he going to, like, what was the whole end? Like, William being the key,
yeah,
the key master, the gatekeeper, whatever the hell he is.
I'll agree with you there. They didn't have an end game. There was no end goal. I think it was something introduced as like a placeholder type of mythology thing, especially given the fact that Josepho is killed in the second episode of this two-parter. And much like the other cult leader from season 8, Absalom shows up in like middle-ish toward the end of season 8. And then he's there for a few episodes, and then he gets killed right toward the end in like the last few episodes. It's like, why bring these characters that are in that are supposed to be so important, and then you just kill them off? And
well, yeah, that's when it got all kind of like crisscrossed and everything, to where like all these side characters would show up, then they get killed, and then another one would show up and they get killed, and you know, some of them would get killed and come back, and then like it just got so like heavy on all this stuff, like all these characters just coming in and out and in and out and in and out, and the plot lines like going one way and another way, and then just that's kind of what just weighed it all down in the end, really. A lot of this stuff, man. Not to mention the fact that I don't care about her psychic goddamn kid. That's like one of the worst subplots or whatever you want to call it to any of this. Was that damn kid like moving shit with his mind? He's like a fucking infant.
What would you have done with, or either one of you could answer this, what would you have done with the whole baby thing? Assuming like that it is Mulder's and all that stuff, would you just have him be on the show? She just has a kid. Would you have actually gone a supernatural route with it, or science fiction route, I guess?
I believe if I was going to do...
Yeah,
go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. No, I was just going to quickly say, I wouldn't have the kid in the first place because that is a jump the shark moment. Okay. When you bring a brand new character or someone has a baby or this season literally has an episode of the Brady Bunch, and what was Jump the Shark? People say Cousin Oliver. Like this, it's in that Sunshine Days, which we'll get to. When that gets brought in, that is for the most part a Jump the Shark moment. If you didn't think it did it then, it did it now. Where now, usually the agents, it's on the outside. What's happened within is humans, conspiracies, subterfuge with other humans, and their evil and greediness. But it's out there that's a supernatural stuff. But now, I find it ironic that Mulder always wanted proof of the supernatural, and now he's got it. And what he could be his kid, that he could be studying 24 hours a day, watching this kid spin and twirl and do jumping jacks, or be the son of the mask, or whatever the fuck else he's going to be. Son of the mask or something. And like, this is Mulder's proof that he wanted all along. This is literally his proof.
Yeah.
And he abandoned because he's not a baby dad. He's like, I'm not going to be no baby daddy. I'm going to be, I'm not going to pay.
It's like an episode of
I'm
fucking
keeping
Maury.
my money. You are not the father. Yeah, cigarette smoking man. You got paid. Paid your bones and your flesh and all this stuff for your explosion would get to. Jesus. So for me, I wouldn't have the baby at all. It doesn't add anything positive. What if you added? What do you gain? What do you lose? I don't see what you gain from it. All I see is what you lose from it.
I would have used it as the out for both of those characters. They're done trying to prove everything. That's why I say season 8 was the best place to end. They have a family now, essentially. So just exit those characters from the show. They're not going to risk their lives on conspiracies and fighting aliens and creatures and all this stuff. And they
here's
just
the thing,
leave.
though.
Yeah.
With all these years, though, they built up that they're the ones going to stop this conspiracy. They're the ones that going to save the world, whatever. So they literally had a movie that pretty much explained that fully, that was going to happen. So now that just gets abandoned. So even then, you're like, what the fuck was the point? Like, all that happened was a bunch of their family died, and all they did was for nothing. Like, what did they really do? It's up to these new guys, I guess. It still feels like short change.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest complaints that I have with this whole show is that, like, ultimately, nothing that they ever did really did anything in the end. Like, I mean, the whole back and forth thing between, like, oh shit, we saw this thing happen, but then, like, there's no proof of it, there's no evidence of it, and nobody else saw it. That got old right towards this season, where it's just like, you know, that whole thing of, and, you know, the end of the trial. One of the worst things about that episode to me was that it exposed just how fucking stupid, like, the whole plot of the show had been, because the prosecuting attorney basically is like just saying, like, so you're saying that all this shit happened and, like, you don't have any evidence of it and there's nothing to go on. And there's one point where he's like, so you're saying that you had like the miracle child that could do all this shit and you just gave it up for adoption.
You gave it up.
Like, so this guy is basically like the voice of reason that like proves all of this stuff that kind of like is all the plot holes in this show. And it's, after a while, man, you just get tired of that same type of stuff where they're just going around in circles, Scooby-Doo style, or, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the cover up, the constant conspiracy thing, all the evidence is washed away or destroyed. Same with anybody who could be a credible witness has either been killed or assassinated or, I mean, you get to a certain point, you just can't keep doing that anymore. And that's really a big problem with seasons 10 and 11, where I thought, like, and I'm jumping ahead really a lot. So season 10, you have that last episode. I actually was somewhat hopeful that he was going to pull the trigger with the invasion, because that's what happens in the last episode of season 10. You have the ship, everybody's running around, going crazy, the invasion starting. That's literally what it appears to be. And then, you know, we get to season 11, that didn't really happen. But for that moment, I'm like, oh shit, Carter has the balls that I didn't think he had. He's going to do it. And I'm thinking like, well, this is going to completely change the dynamic of the show. It's good. I would have done it like, make it like District 9. Like, they're here, we know this and that, but there's still other things that they have to work on and cases to solve. So go ahead, do it. I'd be for it. I'd like to see that. That'd be something completely different. It's all out in the open. He's been vindicated. His work has been proven. Here they are. There's no denying it now. It's right in your face. They're here. But again, that didn't happen. So, but I mean, with all this stuff, with the Providence episode, it was essentially a big waste. And like you said, with the Truth episodes, they really just poked a lot of holes in their own plots. And I mean, even when like Reyes is on the stand and she's trying to say, oh, she gave him away to protect him. It's like, is that really protecting him?
No.
And then the whole new syndicate thing in this season, like with Toothpick Man coming in, and I think it's in this episode, Providence, like introducing that guy. What? Why? We don't need a new syndicate. Like, Noel Rohr was, again, I like Adam Baldwin, but he'd been played out well before. Like, I mean, Agent
Where's
Crane.
the repo man?
Yeah, they beat that. They beat that to death, both literally and figuratively. They beat that character to death like 10 times. Yeah, and also just that idea. Yeah. Okay, so but episode 11 is probably. Let me look at the rest of these. Yeah, it's probably my favorite episode of the whole season, if I'm being honest.
Audrey Plaza?
Yeah, Audrey Plaza. Episode 11, Audrey Pauly. So I'm not sure why I like this episode so much, but this one stuck with me because I remembered it from before too, from watching it when it originally came out. But it's basically the story of. The only bad part about this was the whole thing in the beginning where Reyes and Doggett are like sitting in a car and they're, she's hinting at the fact that she basically wants to come into his house and he's kind of like catching on to what's going on, but doesn't want it to happen. So he just kind of wishes her good night. And then on her way home, she gets hit by a car. She's rushed to the hospital, and then over the course of like a day goes into a coma and she's brain dead. And everybody around is basically saying, even like Scully's like, oh, she's dead. Just go ahead and fucking, make the funeral arrangements. And she's an organ donor. So get ready to like do that shit. But Doggett's like, no, like I'm going to like, I think there's something going on. Like there's more to it than that. Like I'm not giving up on her, yada, yada, yada. So he starts investigating and come to find out that it's actually like, one of the doctors is going around and injecting people with this substance that causes them to go brain dead because he's some sort of crazy like psychopath or whatever. At the same time, there is this flower girl for the hospital who's Aubrey Plaza, and she is I don't know, is she like, I can't say the word that I want to say, but she is challenged in some ways. I don't know exactly because it never really specifies exactly how, but she has built this like dollhouse that looks like the hospital in her room in the basement. And all of these souls that are in limbo because they're in comas and all this or that are like in this dollhouse, and she can go in and visit them. And so again, it's like there's this other alternate dimension where these people are all hanging out. That's kind of like a limbo between heaven and hell, I guess, or whatever. And this one woman can kind of like show up and talk to them from the earthly plane, I guess. But the really cool part about this to me is how they did like all of the stuff where like inside the hospital, everything doesn't make any sense because it's her model of the hospital. So there's no words or like, and you kind of stuck there. You can't get out. And until you die or something else happens, like you're just in this spot. I don't know. Like I said, I really like the episode. I like the actress that plays Audrey Pauly.
Tracy Ellis. She's in season 3 in the Obulette episode.
And she really, I looked her up after this because I was really impressed. And she really didn't do jack shit after this. I don't know what the deal was.
I think she stopped like in the late 90s or something, like doing movies at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll agree. Like it's a cool like premise, sort of having like, I guess it could be considered purgatory, having like a physical like thing like to represent it. But the biggest issue with me was the fact that the way that like Reyes comes back from like her coma or whatever you want to call it, she jumps out of the hospital. So it's like a floating hospital.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's floating in space. The only way for her to come back to her body was just for her to leave the hospital and jump into like this pit of blackness, which I'm like, that's it. That's what she needed to do the entire time to escape. Come on.
Yeah, which she basically like is terrified of at first, and then somehow or another just like figures out. I don't know how she figures it out now, but like she just figures out that that's what she has to do, which is very odd. That just all of a sudden you have this epiphany that you just need to jump out the fucking hospital. But I liked a lot of the performances in it. I'll say that. I like the fact that Doggett was in it a lot, and Reyes was too, unfortunately. But like, I liked the. I liked a lot of it, and it was the least annoying Reyes bit because she's in a coma for the most of the time.
I mean, there's other moments that I just find funny and ridiculous at the same time. Like when the lady confronts the doctor, she's like the nurse.
Oh yeah.
And like he just happens to have this syringe filled with poison in his pocket. He's like, "Oh, you know my secret. I'm going to have to kill you." Like, come on. But again, not the worst. I mean, there's far worse in this season. So what about you, Rambo?
We're getting to it.
Yeah, it's Reyes. I got tuned out so much by this character. That's just the thing with me. I have to really delve into a main character to really care. And because I did not care about her, interesting visuals, other performances, always big on Robert Patrick. So, I mean, there's much worse, there's much better. I was indifferent, and in seriousness, indifferent. Wasn't bad. A lot better than some of the other episodes in this season. So,
yeah.
Now, do you all remember episode 12? Because I did not watch this one apparently either. Underneath.
Yeah. I like that one quite a bit, actually.
Pretty much Robert Patrick, he and his partner, it starts with they're catching a guy, and you find out it's a very early Agent Doggett, like very early in his career.
He's in the NYPD.
Yeah. And it cuts to the modern time. The killer's going to be let go because of some type of, I don't know if it's circumstantial evidence or something like that.
The evidence was planted by his partner to catch him, and they figure out
later
it's not really him. It's somebody else that committed the murders. I think that his name is the Screwdriver Killer. That's what he uses.
It's pretty much a Jekyll and Hyde one where literally the guy will turn into this bearded guy when it's his evil portion, but then his Jekyll side is a very religious person. And it ends in a finale in a sewer where there's a lair with a bunch of body parts, and Agent Reyes saves Doggett, and he sees the bearded guy in the water, but when he pulls out, it's the other guy. And once again, he can't believe it.
Even though he saw the guy.
I'm like, come on, dude. Like, come on. They're desperate to have a skeptic when like nobody else is and the team is a skeptic. Skinner believes, Reyes believes, Scully believes, the baby believes. Like they all believe.
Yeah. Did you notice though how quickly he became like a believer? Like when it came for the trial to come down, all of a sudden, Doggett's like, "Yeah, I'll testify." Like shit, there's crazy stuff that happened. Motherfucker, the whole time you were in the X-Files, you didn't believe anything that you saw up until like 5 minutes before this trial.
It was there. I mean, a lot of times it's either they're bad, aside from few exceptions, it's either bad, lame, or kind of there. That's what I mean. It's just not a good season. It's just the tires are deflated and flat. It's time to junk it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad they did. And it should stay that way. I wish.
Yeah, I think part of why I like it so much, well, one, his partner was Arthur Nascarella. I mean, he's in Bringing Out the Dead and a bunch of other stuff. One of my guilty pleasures, Running Scared from 2006 with Paul Walker. He's like a mob boss or something. He's always great at everything.
Oh, okay.
And then Doggett, or Robert Patrick's performance, is really good because he's so determined to catch this guy, and he's so convinced that like he made the right arrest. And that's probably the best part about it. The whole thing with him having like a second, well, I wouldn't say it's a split personality. It's sort of like a mental disorder, if you will, but he can manifest it basically. His sins manifest in the form of a person, and that person kills. So that was really cool to me. I mean, it's one of the better ones in a season full of a lot of crap. I didn't mind it too much. And I like that we got to see, although it's briefly, Doggett in the NYPD. So,
listen, you're probably going to hate this one as well, but I actually like episode 13.
Okay.
Which is improbable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want to talk about
the most? Like it? What the fuck?
You want to talk about though the most annoying version of Reyes is this fucking version of Reyes where she's all in like numerology.
Yeah.
She's all the whole episode is just her like if you take 5 and 6, then you got the birth number, which is fucking yada yada yada. It's like the number 23 with Jim Carrey all over again.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole episode is about, basically. So there's a serial killer that is hunting down all these random kind of, well, I guess they're not random, that's the whole point of the episode, but like all these different women, and Reyes uses numerology just out of her ass, I guess, for some reason to like decide all of a sudden that she's like, into numerology to try to hunt this guy down. Meanwhile, Burt Reynolds shows up and he just happens to be wherever this guy is at, and he always like wants him to like play a game with him. So there's a scene where he's in a casino and he wants him to like just kind of like sit down and what's he playing? I don't remember. He's playing cards
or
cards there, yeah.
Checkers cards at first, and then
cards at first, then checkers. But he's basically always trying to talk him out of doing what he's doing. He's just like, you want to just sit down and just forget about all this or something like that, or you just want to go someplace else or something like that. Because essentially, like, he's supposed to be God. Like, that's the the kind of the premise of the episode. And so a lot of it is about figuring out these patterns, and that's the whole kind of basis of the episode, is like figuring out the patterns, and also like him coming in at all these different opportune times to kind of help that without really helping it. Like he has Reyes and Scully play a game of chess or checkers, I think. And
checkers.
Yeah. Like when they're doing that, like they see the pattern of what the serial killer is actually doing. So it's like he can't help, but he can't directly help in any way, apparently.
He can sort of point you in the direction of where the signs are, but you have to see them.
Right. Which is, I guess, like their version of God, I guess. Like he never really directly intervenes, but yeah.
Right.
But why can't he help?
Why can't God help directly?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would imagine because it would be him, like he'd be using you as a puppet almost.
Are we talking in general, like about religion or this episode?
Yeah, like actually that's a good question.
Yeah, because I got a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll save them for like.
But just like he's already he's putting himself in the situation to begin with. And he's like talking to people, interacting, but it's like, nah, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything. No, I'm play chess. I'm going to make you figure out. But he's like being a dick. or being like a tease or something. It
He's
just
gonna randomly dance to shitty music.
He's a god tease. Yeah. Yes, he randomly does dance to shitty music. I don't know though. I just like episodes. I like the comedic episodes a lot. Except for some reason, like season 10. I feel like there's a couple of episodes in season 10 that are so fucking comedic, like over the top, just goofy episodes that like it even like made me kind of just turn against it. Like the one with the lizard fucking guy. I was
That's
like,
one of Garrett's favorites from what he said.
oh god. That one just
Yeah.
made me want to.
I didn't mind that
Anyway,
one. I like the way you feel about this as I feel about that. I liked the ideas of that one. How you feel about that is how I feel about this. It just seemed like really goofy with like the goofy music as they're playing checkers in this garage when there's a serial killer around. But I just don't see Stoley, and especially just like I'm gonna play some checkers because this random Smokey in the Bandit told me to do it when there's a killer around.
Mm-hmm.
And just I love Burt. I miss Burt. I grew up with him. I love Hooper and some of the Smokey and the Bandit movies. I know he got in because Robert Patrick he wanted in, and Robert Patrick told Chris Carter, and so Chris Carter wrote this. And then the
I
ending
think
where it
he's a
pulls
lot.
out, and yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's a lot better actor than people give him credit for. Like I've
Yeah.
seen so many shows and movies with him in it where he's just a lot. He's very underrated. He's a lot better than people kind of. They always think of him in those kind of Smokey and the Bandit kind of roles and parts like that. But he was a really good, just really good overall actor. I think.
Yeah, I think Carter. Well, actually, Rambo, you just said that Carter wrote this for Burt Reynolds, this episode, and you also mentioned how Robert Patrick got him in. I believe they met like on the set of the movie Striptease. They were both in that.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking like to me, you have Burt Reynolds and Carter's like he's a huge fan, pretty much as big as you guys are, and myself. And this is what you make. Like I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this episode, but you know, like I like Burt
for me
Reynolds,
it was
so
yeah, I like Burt. It was great to see him in there. He's the highlight.
Yeah.
Very little dog yet. The number stuff just confused me. I didn't understand half of what they were saying.
They didn't
and how it led to one thing. Reyes, I agree, was annoying. Stoley, she had this face like she was smelling a skunk the whole time. Like she didn't want to be there. Like this stink face the whole time episode. And it just like that wide shot where it pulls out his Burt Reynolds' face. I went, what the fuck? Yeah. I love Burt. I'll see it for Burt, but I don't know, man. For me, it was just like too goofy, too silly. And then the open up that God can be in the show, just now you just have like 100 questions about the past and why didn't he do this? Where was he with this? Why didn't he go to Mulder and Scully for this? Like, are there more bigger deals than this guy? Like, the whole world's going to end. I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to go, I don't know, work on my Trans Am or something. But with the whole world's ending, but for this, I'll put my 2 cents in. I'm like,
yeah, religion.
It's a weird way to pick your pick your moments. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
moments to pick.
For some reason, that was a big reoccurring theme this season. I didn't really think about that until now. You have the whole UFO cult that believe God is in a spaceship. Then in the beginning with James Remar, he may or may not be the devil. Then Burt Reynolds is God. Like, what are we doing?
Well, here's also what came after this. I Want to Believe was a big part of that. The priest, the whole thing with Stoley and Faith, and he was like in this, and Chris Carter directed that, so he was in this zone. He had it before, but he really pushed that, exemplified for whatever reason, his own beliefs or whatever the case may be.
I never thought of
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
You'll think fuck it here in a little bit, Rambo. you just wait. All right, episode 14 is Scary Monsters, which is, I believe this is the one about the kid, right? That is drawing all the which is actually this is actually a fairly decent episode too. Of season 9, like goddamn, like it's a kind of a classic if you take everything in this season together.
Yeah, it's my personal favorite episode. I thought Robert Patrick was really good. It's kind of a take on, I forget the episode, The Twilight Zone, that was in the movie.
I was going to mention
the kid
that,
had the cartoons and stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Joe Dante one. I forget the name of it though.
Yeah. And I like that it was kind of interesting that Dog's skepticism actually saved the day. I kind of wish they played more into that, where maybe there were episodes that could be solved that you find out wasn't supernatural. Like maybe they could have done that where it could have been 50-50, where maybe some of it actually wasn't supernatural. And so sometimes Dog was right, and sometimes it was unexplained. That doesn't automatically mean supernatural. It means some other things are happening. Maybe if that made the audience pull into it more in the story to guess, is it supernatural? So you could be with the agent's point of view.
Yeah.
Maybe that could have been more interesting.
Yeah. I think.
But, I mean, this is still supernatural. Yeah, but go ahead. So.
They kind of, I don't want to say put that idea forward because no one literally says that his skepticism saves the day, but his approach to things in season 8 kind of helped their progress overall, him and Scully, when they were doing the cases. I believe Kirsch says in that season that they've solved more crimes and have a higher percentage like of arrest rates and stuff like that than Scully and Mulder ever did. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, that is kind of them reaffirming the fact that he's a skeptic and firmly does not believe in season 8, and his approach mixed with her approach, it just kind of works. But that was it. That was my only point.
All right.
One thing I also liked about I like the director Dwight H. Little because he did Brandon Lee's Rapid Fire, Steven Seagal's Mark for Death,
Halloween 4,
and I like that he like punches a hole through the sheriff's chest.
That was great.
That was kind of a neat effect. I also like the fact that it's pretty ballsy. Here's a little kid, and you hear with matches going, "You scared yet?"
That was great. That was a great moment. Like he sets the whole house on fire, dog it, and then the kid's like, "You wouldn't do that." He's like, "You want to bet?" He sets the house on fire.
You scared yet?
Which didn't really happen, but that's the whole thing. If you believe that it's happening, then it will affect you. So that was a cool idea for sure. One of the better episodes. What did you guys think about the return of Agent Harrison?
I like she got put in her place because like she was kind of dogged in, and then at the end she had to give her tip of the hat. But she was just annoying still. Like you didn't need her in there. You really didn't.
It's one of the worst reoccurring fucking characters.
Yeah.
Just so completely pointless. I'm not even sure. Well, I'll get to that later. Talk about reoccurring characters that I hate in some later episodes. Okay, so this might be one of my least favorite episodes of anything ever in the history of the world. Episode 15 is Jump the Shark. Which
they named it that for a reason.
Yeah, they did.
So this was all the studio, by the way. The studio
that makes sense. Yeah.
Came in and said, "Listen, we fucking hate the lone gunmen. Those guys will not come back. You cannot spend any more time on them. Kill them off."
Why is that? Was it because the show failed, or like what was the deal?
I think the catalyst was, so for everyone watching and listening, the Lone Gunmen got a spinoff show. Their spinoff show only lasted one season, and it was on either right around this time or just before. And it did not do well. I personally thought it was an interesting show. It was a break from all the alien stuff, all the creature stuff. There was a lot more of a practical edge to it with some of the stuff that they were doing. And they got actually two partners. One was Adele Harlow, who's in this episode, and Jimmy Bond, who's sort of like the unofficial fourth member of the Lone Gunmen. And I just think that had they left it alone, the whole like Lone Gunmen like getting killed, this might not have been that bad. I think the real bummer is that you throw these characters away like they were nothing and that like they meant nothing. Like it just, that's going to piss off every fan of the series, no matter what. I mean, I don't mind them doing like a closure episode for the Lone Gunmen series because that's what this episode was essentially supposed to be. But it just, that ending, killing them off in the way they died, like,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Rambo. You were gonna say something.
No, they got so damn lazy. It's like, what are we going to do with these characters? I know you said the studio. I don't know, kill them off. Like everybody, it's like it's like that's the only thing they could think of. You know, Reyes kill her off. Skinner, they kill him off. These guys, they kill him off. Every relative Mulder Scully ever had, kill him off. Anybody around them, kill him off. I'm surprised, almost everybody got killed off. It was like that was the only thing they could think of. That's the limit of their creativity to have a character leave.
And where is 20th Century Fox now? Gone.
Up Mickey Mouse's behind.
Yep. Well, part of it too was that if you want some sort of cheap heat, so to speak, or you want like something to happen in an episode that gets some attention, then the easiest thing to do is just kill like one of the characters, like kill a main character off. And I guess other than that, this gets maybe some ratings if people know that that's what's going to happen or suspect that that's what's going to happen. But I can't really figure out, like what you were saying, like why they decided to do it this way, where it just really means absolutely nothing. There's no reason for them to be stuck in that fucking room that I could figure, I
mean, you have the return of Michael McKean, which I always like him in pretty much anything.
Yeah,
he's the reoccurring character Morris Fletcher from previous seasons. So
Dreamland,
yeah, and the Lone Gunmen show technically. So I like his character, and I like how he sort of manipulates everyone. Like at the beginning, you think that like he's going to be assassinated, and then like they blow up his boat, take that hot blonde chick he was with. They kidnap her, and then like once the boat blows up, you see like these schematics for UFOs and stuff like that, and then he mentions the super soldier program, and that gets Doggett and raises attention. So I kind of like that, but beyond that, like there was nothing else about the episode that I liked. It just and Vince Gilligan said that like their hands were tied. They didn't know what to do, being the fact that the point of the episode was to kill them. That's what the studio wanted. They couldn't do anything else. So, and he said he's gone back and forth with how they killed them many, many times, because those characters first show up in season 1 in the EBE episode, which was written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong. And I could only imagine what their thoughts were as, the writers that like they created these characters, like what an insult from the studio. Like we've given you all these seasons and all these ratings, and you're like, oh, just kill off these characters that have really done nothing wrong. I mean, if their show didn't work, well, that's kind of not really their fault. I mean, they're just characters on a show. They're actors playing a character. They didn't write the damn thing. So yeah, it's just unfortunate. And
I tell you, like the worst part of this episode too was just like they show all that,
mm-hmm.
and then they've got the 3 fucking caskets there. Like there's something about that imagery that's just so like just I don't know. I don't know, like disrespectful or just I'm not sure how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah, I think like Skinner pulls some strings so they can get buried in Arlington because they save the populace from this virus outbreaking. They sacrifice themselves to contain a virus, basically, and they die along with the person who releases the virus. So very dull and not really interesting. And yeah, and Rambo looks like he's dying.
I think Rambo's either asleep, frozen, or dead.
No. That's literally just my review of it. Just not just this season, but this episode on.
It is pretty fucking horrible. Like it's pretty disgraceful. Like the whole way that they handled it too.
Yeah, it just all like everything on the show. You build up to this. This is your payoff. No wonder the show's not that popular. Like no one talks about the show anymore when this and then the season after became such a spit in the face of into fans. And then even when you tell people watch your show, it's like, well, watch it to a point. Why? Well, if you want to, go ahead, but you're going to be sorry. So I don't understand the rationale behind it. I mean, like you said, it's the studio for this one. They just don't do just save them for the finale. They make a bid in the finale, as bad or wonky as it is, but they just pop in, blah, blah, blah. We'll help you get into a van to escape, or we'll blah, blah, blah. Just here for that. Which then they would have been in the new seasons anyway, except that stupid digital version, where the hell it was, of season 10. Like, it's our digital copy, and we're slaves. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. The Langley comes back as like, he's like,
oh, I remember
his digital like version of his consciousness. Yeah, it was like uploaded to a server before he died, and
which they try to solve, and then by the end they don't even solve because like there's a backup, and they're still
they
a
get
slave,
away, yeah.
And they never bring it up again. So now they're forever a digital slave.
I do like some of the action in that episode though, with the assassins and stuff. Like that was probably the most action-oriented episode of that season.
The Bourne Identity with X-Files.
Yeah, basically, yeah. There's some cool shootouts.
When I think X-Files, I think Jason Bourne. Fucking shit. This fucking show just...
yeah. It really did jump the shark. Like, the show itself, yeah.
They tried to bring them back, though. Actually, they did bring them back in the comic. There's a season 10 comic. And of course, that came in between them actually doing a season.
Well, they come back as ghosts at the end of the season, or wherever the hell they were,
right?
Ghosts or whatever.
But
Ghosts in the machine.
I think in the comic, their death is like faked or something, and they bring them back as like actual characters again. But as usual with Chris Carter, it's retconned. Like, no, they're not alive. They're still dead. So, fuck you, fans. You don't get the gunman. But yeah, there's the over my head. You see it, like they somehow managed to cheat death in the comic, but Carter didn't want to go with that narrative. So, yep.
All right, so we're gonna skip around here some. I'm not doing episode 16 talking about fucking William again. Fuck it. episode 17 is one of my favorites from this whole season. It might be my favorite, if not that, then improbable, or not improbable, but
well,
Audrey Plaza.
If I may, one thing about William, I mean, it's not so much about William. I mean, it's
we're not talking about William. Shut the fuck up about William. No,
but wait, it's about
Spender.
It's about Spender. It's not really about William. I mean, they give up William at the end.
As long as you don't talk about William, I don't give a shit.
But that's it. No, this episode is mostly about Spender. Which I liked his character, and seeing him back was pretty cool. It's kind of fucked up what happened to him, but you know, it was. I thought it was interesting.
Elephant man face.
Yeah,
Elephant man.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what he looks like.
He looks like what was it? Hannibal, the guy that's at the end of Hannibal. That's like the
Gary Oldman.
Yeah,
was it Gary Oldman?
It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so you don't know what happens to his character once he gets shot in the X-Files office. They just don't mention him in the episode after that. Like, he's like throwing in his towel. He's like, I'm resigning, whatever. Give the X-Files back to Mulder and Scully. But then he goes down to the office, and then cigarette smoking man shoots him, and that's it. We don't know what happens to him. We just assume he's dead. So it comes back in this episode, and Doggett thinks that is Mulder because he's all disfigured. But he kind of just lays out what happens after the fact. That because he didn't die, cigarette smoking man took his body. They performed tests on him, and did pretty much every horrific act you could imagine in terms of like torture with all the tests. And then he's there mostly to do something with William, but I won't mention that. But it's mostly his episode, and William gets given away at the end. So.
Good, because he sucks. William sucks. Fuck William.
Episode 17.
That one was written and directed by Duchovny, just so you guys know.
Yeah, it makes sense. Episode 17, though, is Release, which I really love. Which this is the episode we were talking about earlier, where it's the Doggett episode where they finally like kind of put to rest all the shit that happened with his son. Which, by the way, how that just seems way too fucking kind of like heavy for this show. I don't know why, but like just, and they keep showing in this episode like pictures of his son dead. His son was like 8 years old. I'm like, this is a little much, isn't it, for like TV and stuff. But anyway, it's there's this new like FBI cadet who basically is like a savant when it comes to being any kind of like profiler. So he can see things about, you know, people and the ways that they die that other people can't see, and eventually gets around to telling Doggett about like stuff about his son and all these hints about who might have been responsible for his son's death. Well, you come to find out he's not really an FBI cadet. He's a schizophrenic guy that drove halfway across the fucking country to find Doggett and tell him all this shit, I guess. And the cool part about this episode, though, is that it's the end of the story arc that we were talking about with Carrie Elwes, where you find out that like actually the guy that killed Doggett's son was in cahoots with Carrie Elwes and was paying him off basically, like as a part of like this mob kind of I don't know what you would call it, a mob group that was around back a long time ago when Carrie Elwes was with Doggett, or in the same whatever with Doggett. But the really interesting part about this, and the best scene in the whole episode to me, was, and I can't believe they did this shit either on TV, is where the what's his name, Ravioli, something like that. I think it's Ravelli. Regali. Yeah, okay. He is he's it's
the ravioli with the
I don't know why, but when I heard his name, the immediate thing I thought of was that fucking bird thing in Breath of the Wild. What's its name? Like Ravelli. Anyway, in Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's like a bird that's like one of the main things. Its name's close to Ravelli or whatever this guy's name is. But anyway, there's a scene where
Ravioli.
Ravioli, where he tracks down Ravioli, Doggett does, and he's in a bar and he's talking to him, and the guy is basically like, so let's just say that, this mob guy was around this other guy who killed your son and like was basically getting ready to have sex with him. And I walked in on it, but your son saw my face, so I had to fucking kill him. And I'm like, God damn, man. Like, it just keeps getting worse and worse for Doggett's son. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it isn't, to me, it was insane some of the stuff they did in this episode. Like, it was on just kind of like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on TV. But, yeah, so then he confronts the mob boss, but like he's getting ready to, like, Doggett's getting ready to kill him after he tells him this stuff, that he was actually the one. He basically tells him he was the one that killed his son. Doggett's getting ready to kill him. He walks outside, and right when he's getting ready to shoot him, like, Eloise comes up from behind and shoots him through the eye, and that's the end of it. Which, by the way, did they ever like explain what happened to his character after that?
Carrie Elwes?
Yeah. Or did he just disappear?
No. Well, basically, yeah. They didn't really ever say anything about like what happened to his character.
He disappeared.
I could be wrong, but I think like I read somewhere that his ties to the mob were exposed and he might have like resigned from the FBI or something like that. I think I did read that somewhere. I could be wrong though. Somebody out there in the chat knows. That's one of the things.
But why would you have to read it? Why couldn't it be in the show?
Maybe you're right. Maybe they do mention something briefly. Like, there's nothing in it directly, but maybe like one of them, either Reyes or Doggett, mentioned something about him being in, like, having to resign due to them finding that out or something. There is something like that at the dead end of the episode that I'd forgotten about. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually quite a few deleted scenes from some of these episodes too, which are on the Blu-ray sets. One of them in particular is for the last episode, which we'll get to, is the toothpick man walking into an office, and it's the White House, and he's having a meeting with the president. So that's how deep the new syndicate is supposed to go. They have ties to the president. But again, that's a deleted scene.
So before we get to the truth part 1 and 2, does anybody want to talk about Sunshine Days? Because I don't.
David Faustino.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I probably should be the last person to like this episode, but I actually like the episode.
I did not see that coming. That's a heavy like swerve.
And I'm not just saying that because it's Vince Gilligan, which I'm a huge fan of. But it works to me. Somehow, like, it just works for me. It's a very bizarre thing, though, isn't it? I mean, the Brady Bunch in the X-Files.
Yeah.
There's a lead character who has the ability to do anything he wants. He can project images, he can make you levitate, all that kind of stuff. And his whole thing is he's been alone all his life, and he likes the Brady Bunch so much that they become his family, essentially. And he has them around, but people keep seeing, like, through his windows or whatever. He doesn't have any sort of privacy with this powerful secret that he has. People keep running in. Eventually it gets exposed. Doggett and Reyes come in. They don't believe it either until they see it. One moment at the end of the episode I like is where the guy lifts up Skinner and he's levitating him in the office, and then he's rotating him. And then they're like, oh, this is it. You know, we finally got all the proof for everything right here. This guy can help us with all the cases going forward. We're going to show this guy to Kirsch. Kirsch won't believe it. That's what Skinner says. I want to show this guy to Kirsch. He's got to see all this. But of course, that doesn't happen. The guy has like a stroke or something. Turns out if he keeps using his powers, then it'll kill him. So he has to stop doing it. And that's pretty much where that ends.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was my second of the few episodes I enjoyed, which was like kind of one hand. That was my second favorite after Scary Monsters, because I liked the story. I did what it was going with. Like Mark said, the reason it's the Brady Bunch is he was with this doctor being tested on, and that's the show they would watch together. So it was less about the show. It was his memory of this guy who was his father figure. So I thought that was maybe over sentimental, but I still thought it was kind of sweet. I like the physical effects of people being thrown out into the roof, like Robert Patrick. He gets thrown right into the roof. He just caught on there, and some nice camera tricks where, Agent Dodd is upside down, so he has to walk upside down because of all this.
I think it's the rotating room, right?
Perhaps. And like I said, that was a sweet, fun episode. It was quirky enough and was strange enough, but at the same time, I thought it had a nice heart to it. And I like how Doggett solves it very, A to B to C. He solves it very succinct, very matter of fact. And I thought, okay, that's a way of showcasing he's a good agent. Again, showcasing his other point of view, why he's worthwhile to the group. He has a different mindset. And again, I would love to have seen even more of that. That's why I think Doggett was the one good thing about this. My two favorites are the ones that he's very adamant in, Steermon's and Sunshine Days. And if they, to use a wrestling term, did the Roman Reigns the good way, put the bootstraps on him and let him go forward and not hold back, maybe it could have been better, but it's like they still didn't give him the shot. It still really wasn't his show. It was, here's Stoley, here's William, fuck William, here's Reyes, here's Toothpick Man and Matchstick Man, and stick the toothpicks up his ass. And it's just like they had no direction, they had no goal, and if they had just centered, like, I bet people said in season 8, hey, that guy Dottie was one of the best parts. Center on him. Make the mythology around him. Make it, if it's a different have it take place with him, and it's a different mindset. So it's not just regurgitation of Mulder and mythology. And it's like they didn't want to do it. They did not, for some reason, foresee to put it on his shoulders. He's a good enough actor and a good enough character. He could have done it, and they didn't. I don't understand why. It's like they were too afraid. And then, so, again, there's Stoley, there's all this other stuff that just combine in this mess. And that's the season 9. It became a mess. And then when they found out they were ending, wrap it up very quickly, it became even more of a mess, which we'll get to. Just a mess.
Let's go ahead and talk about the season finale. So, the truth.
The goddamn trial. That's all it is for 90 minutes.
It really, okay, so directly before the trial, like why Mulder is on trial is because he sneaks into this government facility trying to find information about like the alien plans for colonization and all this and that. He ends up running into Noel Rohr and ends up like dropping him off the side of this balcony and onto these kind of like high tension wires. And
Noel Rohr is killed again.
Yeah, he's killed again. And they're trying him for his murder, which basically, everybody knows isn't true because he can't die. And then the actual trial starts, and I swear to God, it's just like 90 minutes of fucking speeches from everybody that's ever been a part of this show. Just these long ass speeches about the truth and how they're trying to bury the truth and yada fucking yada, and like there's no evidence. And then I'd forgotten that the guy that's like the heel in The Wedding Singer is the prosecuting attorney.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. But yeah, and like I guess Skinner takes the defense. Skinner's the defense attorney for some reason. I don't think does he have a background in law? Does he know what the fuck he's doing?
It's Mulder's idea. He says that Skinner knows everything about what's going on. He can trust him, and he's got an extensive knowledge of everything, and he's seen the alien ship, for himself. He's a believer, so his experience will help just overall.
And basically, Mulder tells everybody, what's funny about that is then Mulder tells everybody, don't get involved and don't testify because they'll just ruin your lives. Like, so just don't say anything about all this stuff. That
you can't go too deep is like his thing. Give them just enough Um,
And then
You know what? This is remember back in the day when they didn't have enough for a show, so they had a clip show?
yeah.
yeah,
Like this is a verbal clip show. It's
yeah,
just
it's a
let me
compilation episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
repeat everything we showed you, exposition for like if it's 90 minutes, 80 minutes, like 70 minutes of his exposition. It's a verbal clip show. Remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. That's mostly it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how that's. We think it's too convoluted and we know you're confused. So let's just explain verbally. And even then, half of it don't make, there's still holes in it. That's not interesting. It's not exciting. It's not satisfying. Visually, is boring as hell. And it's just, if you're
Yes,
Mark, you already know. So it's like, you just asked me. I could tell you the whole damn thing. And
no, the end episode's biggest problem is, aside from the fucking shit with the cigarette smoking man, is how boring it is. Like, that's how you want to end the whole damn thing, is just hours of a trial, like the most boring trial you can imagine, and just people giving these half-ass speeches throughout the whole thing is all it is. Like, and you get to Mulder's speech where he's just like, you're the same shit. You're trying to kill the truth, and the truth never dies, and yada yada yada. Brother, the truth comes back with me, dude. And he's cutting promos on all of them, and it's just like, okay. And then somehow or another, Kirsch gets a tear in his eye and decides that that's the thing that he's going to flip the switch on and just help them all get away. Which is
like, they bring back Gibson Praise.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is way back when I first saw this. I'm like, oh, well, he's the only witness you need. Like, he can expose everything that's going on. He proceeds to do that, but then that doesn't go anywhere. So why bring his character back to just point at the toothpick man and say he's an alien? Nothing came of that. Like, why even do that? It just I can't understand Chris Carter's logic of anything. Just God.
So then trial's over. Mulder's, convicted of murder and sentenced. I thought this was so killer for some reason. So just to add on to it or whatever, he's sentenced to die by lethal injection. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. And then, of course, he escapes because Kirsch helps him escape, but doesn't really help him. He's just kind of shows up and he's like, hey,
you're never going to get out if you go this way.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
He does. So he helps him and he turns face, and then Mulder's like, I'm going to go visit the guy about the truth. So he goes to the fucking desert, and they've told him, like, Mulder says something like he was given a message that there's a guy,
a wise man
there, a wise man, and it turns out to be fucking Native American cigarette smoking man. And he's just sitting there chilling, smoking cigarettes, and he has one of the dumbest goddamn ending kind of monologues where he's like, after all this shit, right? After all this stuff that he's put them through and all this, he literally says this. He goes, so I just wanted you to come back here so I could see you broken by the truth now that you know, Mulder, and that's the only reason that you came back. So now you can die. Like, really?
And it's too much for you to handle. That's what he says to Scully.
And really, like, literally, neither one of them seemed fazed by any of this shit. Like,
yeah.
Mulder didn't seem at all broken, and Scully didn't seem fazed. So, like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but clearly they didn't know what to do with that character at that point. And then he's obliterated by missiles.
Yeah, it was completely unnecessary. I mean, Mulder finds out the date of the final alien invasion, December 12th, or December 22nd, 2012. And that it's not possible to stop it. It's going to happen. But somehow it is postponed. So I sort of look at it like, I guess it's like Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Like it's about them stopping Judgment Day in that movie. But in the later shitty sequels, you find out that Judgment Day is inevitable. Like, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. So to me, I always thought that that's what it was. Like, they were Mulder, all of his, interference throughout all the seasons doing this and that. He kept pushing the date back, basically. He kept messing up the aliens' plans and stuff. So, but it was going to happen. It was inevitable. So I'm like, okay, I'll go with that. But the show's going off the air, so why even bring that up?
Right.
Because they wanted to do a movie eventually.
But he didn't even follow up. Like, if you do the movie,
it's Chris Carter, what does he follow up? What has he followed up?
He follows up. It doesn't happen, remember? It didn't happen.
Yeah, that's true.
That's his follow-up.
The Serious Smokeman blows up and his skin leaves his body. His skeleton gets obliterated. He turns, like you said, into a Mortal Kombat fatality.
You see his skull.
Yeah.
And then later on, it's just a little burn here, a little burn there. I guess he redrew his everything somehow. They take people for such idiots who watch the show, like they do. And when we get to they were idiots. You didn't see that? You're not doing a fucking force, these are not the droids you're looking for. You ain't Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're not doing a fucking mind wipe on me, okay? I know what he
tried. He tried to mind wipe.
We all know what he saw. How can you do it with a straight face and think people would buy it? How can you think, okay, after 9 years, people want to see a 90-minute trial of people just watching and talking in courtrooms as if it's Judge Judy?
They literally could have done anything else, and it would have been a better idea than this, the way that they did this. And am I wrong?
Fucking Judge Judy episode was a finale.
Did they not tell Reyes and Dog at the end? They're basically, this is the end of their characters, by the way. They're basically just like, they'll be looking for you now, and then they just fucking drive off.
Yeah, like I think Doggett's like, get in, because like these 2 black helicopters are coming. They know that they're about to be killed. They tell them to get in. And Mulder's like, go, just get out of here. Get out while you can, kind of thing. So they drive off. Mulder and Scully get in the truck. Doggett and Reyes are in a truck. And I do like the image of them driving in different directions. I kind of like that because it's like a separation thing. It's kind of over. You have the new guard going this way and the old guard's going their own way. So that was kind of cool, but that's literally it. I mean, beyond that, like, you have nothing in this episode, and it's just disappointing. And like you said, Rambo, very boring. It's Judge Judy. Like, it's not good.
Why does Mulder see the ghosts of the 3 lone gunmen?
He sees the ghost of Krychek.
Yeah.
Why?
Who knows? You have to ask Carter. I'm sure he's got an answer.
But it's like the George Lucas shit where they at the end of he put in at the end of the Star Wars, like all the fucking like put in Yoda and Anakin and all that shit. Yeah.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He is a lot like George Lucas. How do you feel about Star Wars? There was a lot of people that liked those old films, and you see how both maybe had good ideas, but when you get more into writing and more in directing, you realize they're not as talented as they thought themselves, or as other people thought themselves. Whether it be the Star Wars prequels, whether it be I Want to Believe with Chris Carter, whether, and then just both like completely destroyed franchises. George Lucas selling to Disney, and then Chris Carter selling his soul. It's infuriating as a fan that this is what it ended up being. I mean, that's why it says this is the end, my friend, the end.
Mm-hmm.
Play the Doors music. or what?
Sting of the
This is the
Scorpion brought
emotion.
up a good point. I forgot the X makes his return
X
as
is in
well.
there too, yeah.
And Stephen Williams is like, he hasn't missed a beat. He's so great as that character. His dialogue in that scene is one of the highlights. The what his whole like demeanor, he's just so good. It's another character. Why do they have to kill everybody off?
Mhm.
And Mulder just keeps seeing ghosts for some reason that he's never done before, or where the hell that was meant to be.
But ultimately, this was an awful ending to this series. What they thought it was going to be the ending of the series at the time, and it
It
was
says a lot
for
when you look at the ratings, and it was nothing. You look at the ratings. Usually, it's a finale of a show. The ratings
Mhm.
don't be up. Old
Mhm.
fans. It didn't make a dent. No one cared. They literally killed their audience.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, they did. They bored them to death during this whole fucking season. Is what they did until
Yeah.
they get to the end, and then made something so stupid that it could never really be
Yeah,
lived
you would have
down.
had to have been like a diehard fan to still be watching at this point. I think that's all that they had left were like the true like diehards. But I mean, even like that's not enough to save it though. It was never going to be good. Chris Carter left to his own devices when determining the direction of the mythology. Because like ultimately it's all him with this mythology stuff at the end. He's God, that guy. I don't get him. I can never understand him at all. I mean, I would think that he would have had something much bigger planned. I mean, he did the whole sequence with the helicopter shooting all these missiles at that one spot. I mean, how much did that cost? You could have probably spent that money making an action packed episode with all these characters and then like giving them logical closure points, but he just didn't go that route. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think that may have been the best part about the episode was the helicopter sequences with just them going through the canyons and things like that, and then
Mhm.
like eventually the blowing up the cave. But that was
Mhm.
it's like that best part of
It's
the whole
like
thing.
5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, I just hated everything about it, man. I hated the half-ass stuff, the way they tried to explain everything,
Mhm.
like all the speeches that didn't go anywhere, like all of the horrible dialogue and just the way they killed cigarette smoking man. And he was dead, by the way. Like there's no coming back
Yep.
from that unless you're fucking Wolverine or something. Like you're not regenerating from your skeleton.
He did
Like
not need to come back for this season. I said that last time on the last episode. That was the best part of season 8. No cigarette smoking man because that character
yeah,
had run his course. They killed Krychek kills him at the end of season 7, or so we think, and I would have been fine with him just killing
yeah.
him.
But that's it to me. Like I don't know how you feel about seasons 10 and 11. I
Mhm.
unfortunately went back and watched a lot of season 10 because like my streaming service just went into it. Like after
Mhm.
season 9 it just immediately goes into season 10.
Mhm.
And we're going to combine seasons 10 and 11.
Yeah, that's
Uh
perfect.
yeah, because they're only like 6 episodes each, I think.
Mhm.
But Jesus, man, like I mean this was really the end. To me, this is like because season 10 and 11 are just fucking insanely shitty. So, I mean, this was shitty, but like it gets a whole other
Now,
level of shitty.
do you guys think that the Monster of the Week episodes in season 11, because I think season 11 is probably like 10 or 11 episodes. Season 10 is 6 episodes. So because there's more in that season, there's more to choose from. So I'll go with that season as opposed to picking season 10. But with season 11, do you guys think any of those monster episodes were better than the best ones in this season? If you
No,
remember any of them? Okay.
Yes.
no, I don't.
Yeah.
There was one.
Which one? I'm curious now.
Well, I'm trying to remember. It has a weird name, but I liked it because I liked the drone one, where it's very little to no dialogue, and
Mhm.
Mulder and Scully go to a diner, but it's all automated,
The sushi
and so
diner one. Yeah, yeah.
all these like robots, anime stuff. I thought it was such a cool sci-fi. I'm a sucker for that stuff. I
Mhm.
like that there's like little to no dialogue that was interesting. It was all done through action. And I thought it was a breath of fresh air for a season that was a breath of rank ass. And I thought, okay, that was some fresh air to be seen. I liked that episode quite a bit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not mind the Skinner one with Haley Joel
I was going to say
Osment
that
and
that's
Vietnam.
a great episode. I think Skinner being the lead.
Those two I didn't mind, but there's still a lot of
the other two that I really like is the one with the lady who's like an actress, but she found like a doctor who can somewhat immortalize her, so to speak. And then she has like a huge like family of people like living in the apartment that she's in. And it's very Cronenberg-esque. There's a lot of like flesh ripping and like flesh like maneuvering and stuff. Basically, she's being kept alive by like something like in the spine. I think it's like spinal fluid or something like that. I'll dive deeper into that when we get to it. We're already at like 2 hours and 30 minutes almost.
Well, I mean, this season shown I can suck my fluids.
I can't
Every
believe...
drop out of my
God damn.
What if for you? I mean, it's a funeral. This is the funeral, and 10 and 11 are the carcasses being kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Season 9, if you want to put it that way, is a very slow death, of the whole show.
What would you guys rate this season?
Like you mean as opposed to all the rest of them, or just 1 to 10?
Just as a whole, like in general, like how we did with season 8.
Oh God,
it's the worst of the 9.
It is by far the worst of the 9. I give it a 3. A 3 out of 10. Like there's just not. There might be 2 or 3 really interesting or decent episodes in this, and all the mythology stuff is awful and boring and just hard to watch. And there's not really even that many good standalone episodes either. So,
2 out of 10 for me.
I'm probably really like right in the middle, right there with you guys. Either 2.5 out of 10 or 3 out of 10, somewhere around there. I mean, if there was no Robert Patrick, you don't really have much going on. I mean, other than Skinner, of course, or Mitch Pileggi.
Yeah,
I just can't believe that it got to this point. Like that it got this bad, and then they ended it the way that they ended it, and then they just. And it stayed that way for how many years? Like 16 years or something before the next incarnation? Yeah.
Sounds about right, sadly. And then that was the best they could come up with, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I've got to go back and watch season. I watched quite a few episodes of season 10, but I haven't watched anything from season 11. I'm not positive if I've ever watched season 11. I don't know if I did or not.
Yeah. That's the other episode I didn't mention, but we'll get to it. It's the one with the Hellhound thing in season 11. I think it's called Familiar. Do you remember that one, Rambo?
No.
Okay. Well, I think that's one of the better ones from season 11 for sure.
But anyway, so I guess like we'll try to do season 10, 11, and then at some point the commentary for the movie, and we'll try to do that next Friday, I guess, unless there's some other shit going on, because I never fucking know. Like from one
the commentary or seasons 10 and 11.
Seasons 10 and 11, and we'll do the commentary kind of separately, just so we can like keep all that together. But okay, so
well, I know you got tomorrow. You got the Leprechaun.
Yeah.
And then the 19th, you got the Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal.
That's right. 29th is Wes's big ass birthday bash. Yeah. So I know those are coming up. So let's see. What day? I don't have a calendar on this fucking thing. What day is the 19th?
Sunday.
Sunday? Okay. And then the 29th.
Sunday. It's
like a Wednesday or something.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay.
29th is a Wednesday.
All right, so we should be good though. We'll just we'll keep it on Friday and hope that nothing else comes up in between. So okay, from best to worst, he's saying season 9 is the best.
What? Or does he mean worst to best?
I hope to God that's not the actual from best to worst.
I think he means worst to best.
Like, what if he doesn't though? What if this is actually
he's trolling? There's no way.
So from best to worst, he goes 9 is the best. 7, there's no fucking way. So I'm thinking he means worst to best. I hope.
Sorry, we neglected the chat, guys.
Well, I mean, never know. I mean, people have different opinions. People are already calling the new Evil Dead film one of the best films ever made.
Oh, don't
I saw a review of that the other day.
Come on.
One of the best films ever made, Evil Dead Rise. So you never know. You have different opinions.
You knew that was coming, Rambo. You knew they were going to start saying that was the best goddamn movie ever made in the last 20 years or something.
People just want to champion something.
Proven wrong.
We won't. It won't.
No, it won't.
That trailer is terrible. So
I have absolutely no hope in any of these franchise movies. I hope everybody understands that. That just those movies are all awful.
So no On the Road for Evil Dead Rise.
Evil Dead, no. All right. So until next Friday at 10, check us out at Dead Pit on Patreon and Into the Dead Pit on Instagram and fucking Dead Pit on Facebook and Dead Pit at your asshole. I don't know. There's a lot of Dead Pit stuff. So Mark, what do you got going on?
Well, quite a few videos actually, if I could get them uploaded. Yeah, I should be dropping one, if not tonight, tomorrow night. But oh wait, damn, the Leprechaun thing's tomorrow night. Well, sometime this weekend there'll be some new stuff on the channel. I'm not gonna say what it is, but I'm gonna be doing some extra stuff that I don't usually do. So anybody that's subscribed to me, check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, Matt, what do you got going on, man?
Just a lot of requests coming up. Fulfilling requests. So for folks out there who do follow me, it'll be reviews of films like Thief, Michael Mann film, Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield, a lot of topics. Someone wanted me to talk about Tarantino's last film, apparently, that he's making, about a film critic or something. It was called The Movie Critic.
Yeah,
some news on that. Topic on unmade Tarantino films. A lot of random stuff, a lot of cool stuff, and by the time tonight, I'll probably upload another 3 videos. So stay tuned.
Yeah, while I'm still working on mine.
That's right, motherfucker. Get to work. So, Wes, aka CK, wanted me to let everybody know that as of today, every single OG episode of the Dead Pit radio show has been uploaded onto Patreon.
Nice.
So I think it's like 400 and some, over 400 episodes have all now been uploaded to the Patreon. So there's nothing left from that era anyway to be uploaded. So now we just move forward. So if anybody wants to check all that out, it is up.
Wait, so how much closer are you guys to bringing the show back, like officially?
That's a good question. So what did he say? What was the fucking goalpost for that?
Was it a certain amount of subscribers?
I think so.
Was it? Or no, I think it was Patreons. I think one of the two.
That's right. It was Patreons, wasn't it? It was like, Yeah, but I can't remember what he said now. But I mean, hell, man, we're eventually going to do that anyway, and like bring back that format like at some point or another. Personally, I'd like to have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, at least over 1,000 on Instagram, and the Patreons. I think we're doing pretty good on the Patreon stuff, so I'm not really worried about that. But can always have more.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the show in its original format will come back, I'm sure.
Cool.
But I'll tell you what else will come back though is us next Friday at 10 o'clock discussing seasons 10 and 11, the final seasons. Goddamn, I hope they're the final seasons. Let's all pray that it doesn't go any further.
Well, Disney had some ideas for more stuff, but they won't make a move because Gillian Anderson doesn't want to come back. So we'll see if that ever happens.
Thank God.
Yeah, man. It's like every time anybody wants to make something better by like coming back with it, it always makes it worse. So let's just let it die. Anyway, I'm Uncle Bill, and for Mark and Rambo, we are out. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
See you.
Give us the thumbs up.
Up your butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
Hey everyone, it's Oak Early Jaws. We got some great shirts for you. We got Faces of Death Part 2. We got Creepy Stories to Tell in Kentucky. The Colonel Would Approve. We also got DeadPit.com. We got Dead Pit Radio with the little fucking Dead Pit dude on there. We got It Never Ends, a Halloween spook parody of the new movie. We got It at Night. We got the Rad Pack, Uncle Rad himself. It just gets better and better, so go on and get you some shirts over at Team Public. It just gets better and better, boss.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DeadPitOnPatreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.